Hi there, welcome to today's Business Growth Club show. We are so pleased to have you here. The theme is growth marketing.
We're talking about actions and consequences today.
It's all about purpose.
Driving business growth with using KPIs.
We're talking money mindset.
The Growth Club, I mean, not to oversell it, but it's so well organised. So yeah, it was totally invaluable.
The Growth Club, coupled alongside with the Masters that I'm doing at Strategic Leadership at the moment, both of those things happening collectively have definitely transformed, and the Growth Club did have a massive impact for our business.
What is it that attracted you to come to the Growth Club in the first place? Let me just ask you to start off with that.
Well, because it was the two of you, basically.
I never tire of that. Air guitar is at the ready. It's on my riding cabinet, which you can't see. Good evening, folks. So I'm here with my very good friend, business partner, Jo North, waving in the corner there. I'll do a little wave as well, not to be left out, and all the rest of it. So welcome to another weekly broadcast even of the Business Growth Club show. We might come up with a more zany title for it here. So we're going to be talking tonight about how to create your value proposition. It's not just marketing mumbo jumbo, by the way, but it's got a lot of sustenance, so it's a lot of substance. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And we've got obviously promises, a great show lined up here. We're going to hopefully entertain you, give you some value. I'm going to pass over to my good friend Jo, who's going to fill it in. He's looking very glamorous there in the corner.
Thank you. I'm not feeling very glamorous. I nearly didn't. I just snuck in, didn't I, just before 6 o'clock, because I was having a bit of a tech issue with my camera, which I've sorted today, so that's all right. It's just it wasn't plugged in properly this afternoon, but it is now, and really pleased to be here today. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear, do you have a value proposition? What is it? Do you think you need one? Don't you think you need one? And we're also going to be talking about some different value propositions, some real examples from brands you may or may not have heard of. And actually, if you've heard of them, then you can think, does that value proposition match what I think about that company and that business? And if you haven't heard of them before, you could say, would you know what they did, as based on that value proposition? So lots to talk about. We want to hear from you. And if you're watching on replay, then don't forget to just comment and engage as well, because we will come back with all your questions, responses, and and all of that. We'll follow up with every single person who leaves a comment on the show, whether it's live or on replay. So I love watching that show reel as well, Mahmood. It makes me smile.
It makes you think, actually, and that's genuine, actually. So that was really quite heartwarming, apart from the great music, by the way. But actually, it's great seeing former sort of colleagues from the Business Growth Club sort of saying good things, and they're doing great things as well in their own businesses. A bit of high tech as well, apparently, Jo, that if people say comment, press hashtag replay, apart from us knowing they're there and we can follow up the comments, there'll be a magic little cat bot that will step in and actually share some goodies about the Business Growth Club as well. So there's a double bonus there for you.
Yeah. So we are nearly 3 weeks into January, but thinking about value proposition, about what it is, why we need one, and more importantly, how to put one together. And it's something as well that we need to keep moving. It's not, a value proposition isn't set in stone forever, because the world around changes, and we need to keep up to date with the changes as well. And the core thing really is thinking about the word value. What does that mean? What value are you providing? How well does it match what your customers want? But then how well are you actually communicating that, and what does it mean? So we've got loads to talk about, haven't we?
Three strands that come together. And I think the key thing, as we've said on previous broadcasts, put yourself in the shoes of the customer. That's who you're talking from the perspective of. It's not you talking about you. Nobody's really interested in you as such. I know that sounds very dramatic and very harsh, but it's true. Customers are really interested in terms of what transformation, what value you're going to bring to them. So, and I think, as we've said before, and Jo's just said as well, there's going to be a consistency, and it's going to make sense when you put these three things together.
Yeah. And Mahmood, as you said, value proposition sounds a bit, jargony. Yeah, but actually, and we're no BS people. We're very straightforward, and we're all about what is, doing what it says on the tin. And value proposition is one of those that we think is important. It's not just jargon for its own sake. It has substance. And at the heart of it is what does the word value actually mean? Because value is a word that we use a lot, but do we ever really stop and think, well, what, if you were to define value, how would you define it? And a great way to think about it is to just ask yourself, and I'm going to ask you this in a minute, Mahmood.
Oh, put me on a spot. Okay.
Yeah. What is, the best thing you've ever bought? What's the best money you've ever spent and why? What's the best money you've ever spent and why? Just ask yourself that question. Maybe hit us up in the comments with your thoughts, but what's the best money you've ever spent and why, Mahmood?
Well, for me, if I take a different take on value in the sense of if I think about experience, then I would say for me, the best money that I've spent in terms of personal experience is actually flying first class, which sounds very grandiose here. So after several years of flying baggage class, cattle truck class, and all the rest of it, I thought, what's this all about? And so for me, that was probably one of the best things. That was a great experience. Once you've done it once, it's a great feeling of having that. So for me, on a personal experience, that was one. If you think about a utility and all the rest of it, what's the best thing I've ever spent money on is probably, I'm going to come back to you on that one.
You're going to come back, because this is the thing about value. When we think about value in terms of being the best money we've ever spent, even if it's a utilitarian thing, we always come back to how it makes us feel. So first class made you feel a certain way, whether it's super comfortable, super easy, super convenient, a bit special, treating yourself, those sorts of things. But even if you were to buy a new screwdriver, right, then, and you think that's really great value, it's because it enables you to do the job, you feel comfortable with it, it's easy, it's convenient. So we buy everything because of how it makes us feel. So value is a lot to do with how we feel about something, not just the job it's designed to do. It's got to do the job it's designed to do, but also we add, additional sense of value to things because of how it makes us feel. And that, whether it's customer service or product and however basic things are.
There's got to be a change, isn't there? There's got to be a transformation of some description between where you were before and where you're after. What the same question to you, by the way, Jo? I'm intrigued. What was your best value purchase?
The best money I've ever spent. I mean, I've spent lots of money, not lots of money, but I've bought lots of really good things. I think the one that comes to mind most immediately is my dog. So I've got a French bulldog, but French bulldog called Paddy, and they're not cheap, but he's so adorable. He's full of personality. He's got the cutest ears, and he just makes me smile, even when he's being naughty. I just love him so much. So how he makes me feel is best ever. Yeah. I know you've got a cat, haven't you? Would you say the cat's the best money you've ever spent?
If my wife's not listening, I would say no. But they're brilliant, okay, because they're rescue cats anyway. But yeah. I like that idea about experience, because I think for me the best value over time is probably two things in my life. Actually, beyond that, is probably passing my driving test much later on in my life, and my professional qualifications. So if I think of that as investment and value that I got from them, it's probably those two that stand quite highly up the charts.
Yeah, and this works for industrial stuff as well. So it's not just all about consumer stuff. When you think about what's the best money I've ever spent for my business, it's the stuff that helps move you forward. The stuff that is easy or insightful, or it does something really positive, and it still makes you feel a certain way. As well as actually doing the job and doing the function. So this works B2C as well as business to consumer, as well as B2B, business to business. And every time we do business, we're doing business P2P, which is, of course, person to person. How many acronyms in one sentence?
I'm sure we can get a few more in.
we can get a few more in. So value is about how we perceive something to be useful, beneficial, worthy, all of those things as well. And it's about the standard that we have. It's also about numbers, isn't it? Value is about maths, numbers, quantifiable stuff. You know all about numbers more than me.
You can't always measure. It's weird, actually, because you can't always measure the impact, but I think you've got to be able to articulate that. So as a business, who feels they've actually got a value proposition they're working on or want to define. It always just surprises me that, you've got lots of businesses who offer great value. We come across these, whether they're big companies, small companies, whatever. We purchase something, it's got a great value to us, but actually it's sometimes I think businesses find it very difficult to communicate that value proposition to a wider populace as such. So I've often come across stuff that I'm buying. I've often come across stuff that I think is great, gives me great value in my business and all the rest of it. But actually not a lot of people know about it. A lot of people actually are aware that this thing exists. And it always is a difficult battle for a company, I think, to communicate that value they offer to a wider audience here. So it's that consistency in the messaging and everything else that goes with it as well.
Yeah. And value isn't price. So value isn't price, but price is related closely to value, and price influences perceptions of value. And if you think about something in a minibar in a hotel, so you could have a can of, a can of Diet Coke in a posh hotel in a minibar, we would probably usually expect to pay more for it than we would if we were to get off our bums, walk around the corner to the corner shop and buy a can of Diet Coke from there. But so it's not just all about price, but we might not perceive the can of Diet Coke from the hotel to be as good value, but yet we still sometimes pay the money for it. So it's interesting, the whole concept of value. So what a value proposition is then is it's how we make money, because what we offer has got to have value for the people we want to buy it, and we offer that in exchange for their money and for their loyalty, and of course that's what drives business growth. So we need to make sure that that value is really clear, well executed, well defined, and well communicated.
Yeah, and it's not always the easiest thing in the world. I mean, if you think about, let's have a think about hospitality sector. If you look at the terms of a meal that's presented here, if you look at the actual cost of those raw ingredients, the cost of transforming those raw materials into a meal, then that has a certain cost to it. But in terms of what you're going to be charging that out to a client here, there's a big gap between the two, and that's the value that you're reflecting in that. Is that cliche? I think I've got it right. Is it about those people who know the cost of everything and the value of nothing there as well? There is definitely a disconnect between the two, and those two aren't the same.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about your value proposition, and let us know what you think it might be as we go through, and also let us know what's the best money you've ever spent, because that's just interesting. It's about thinking, how well does that actually match what customers want and need right now? And where you've got that matching, that's called value proposition fit, where the two connect. And when businesses don't do as well as they might want to, sometimes it's because the fit is a bit off. The business is offering something, but it just doesn't quite do the job for customers. So if you've got something that's not performing as well as you'd like it to do, this could be where the answer is. And it might have worked a month ago, it might have worked 6 months ago, a year ago, but it's not working as well now. And it's often because something's a bit off.
Yeah, it could be that very idea that you offer you offer that very premium service, let's say for a delicatessen, and it's actually giving people things in a very cheap and nasty container and all the rest of it. There's got to be what I would probably call matchmaking as well. Make sure there's consistency along everything from how you communicate, how you package, how you deliver, the words that you use, the language style that you use. It's interesting though, Joe, isn't it? When we started the broadcast last year, and we talked about business growth and putting plans together, about how much time somebody's got to invest at the beginning, thinking about, for example, their customers, thinking about what they're offering. I think really, as part of that initial investment of time and energy here, value proposition fits very neatly in there. And if you can articulate it, if you can refine it, if you can develop it, everything else that flows from that you've got to do to grow your business, it becomes much more easy.
Yeah, it's absolutely at the heart of your business. And if you're into anything like the business model canvas, which is where you map out your business model, the value proposition needs to come first before you do any marketing, before you put your strategy together and of how you're going to grow. It's about thinking, have I got this value proposition right? Because if that's not right, then all the activities that you do will be off center as well. They won't be hitting the mark. And a lot of people don't invest the time. And it's about really thinking about when the customer is trying to achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve, how can you take away pain from that process, and how can you really ramp up the gain from that process and make it as good and as beneficial as possible. And that's what differentiates your value proposition and makes you stand out for all the right reasons against somebody else's, your competitor's value proposition. So think about not just what you offer and the need that you're filling, but how you can do that by reducing pain and how you can increase the gain. And that's where you can create some really clever competitive advantage.
And if you don't take these questions just purely rhetorical, by the way, if you don't know the answers to those questions, that's fine. There's no shame in there. That's what you do when you actually do research. That's what you do when you talk to your customers. That's what you do when you talk to those stakeholders you're engaged with. Ask, research, and find out. I think probably a lot of businesses won't necessarily know the full answers there, which is great. That's fine. Well, that's the things that you've got to fill in the gaps. That's what you're going to find out from those customers and why they come to you, what they're looking for, what's the pain they're trying to solve. And I think it flagged up at the beginning. It's if you've got a company that does more than one thing, you've got different products, different services, create a value proposition for each cluster.
Yeah. Every bit of your business needs to have its own value proposition, which sounds a lot, but actually you're investing time in it, you're investing money in it. So it's making sure that everything, all the key pieces in your business are fulfilling the need that they're there to do. And I really believe, what you say is absolutely right, Mahmood. It's about testing it and asking customers. Don't take your own assumptions. And so many business owners go, oh, I know what my customers want. I don't need to ask them. And actually, do you? You might be doing very well, but you might be able to do even better. And it's about actually being open to challenge, isn't it? And being open to constructive feedback.
Yeah, quite right. I mean, it could be very much a case that if you've been in business a long time, what might have been your value proposition 5, 10, 15 years ago may not actually be the value proposition that, customers are willing to pay money for now. So things change, technology changes, life changes. So, you're going to continually keep asking, you're going to continue finding out what's going on.
Now, I've got some value propositions, as have you.
Ooh.
Both got them. And if I'm looking to one side, it's so I get them right, because I don't want to misrepresent any brands out there. So we're banging on here about, I hope it's very interesting anyway, but we're talking about value propositions. So we really ought to give you some examples of what we mean by value proposition. So we've got some real life ones here. And what Mahmood and I are going to do is we're going to talk through some of them. And Mahmood and I haven't discussed these. And we're going to say what we think works or maybe doesn't work about them, and let us know what you think as well. Is this a good representation of the business? What would you change? Or if you think it's a good one, why do you think it's good? So we've got a number here. First one is Uber, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the Uber one because it's got two, isn't it? It's got it for the drivers, and also it's got one for the value proposition for the passengers as well.
Yeah. So you might want a different value proposition for the same product or service, but the value proposition is tweaked according to different audiences. So Uber say that the smartest way to get around. For riders, you see tap your phone, get where you're headed. And drivers see the message, which is really simple: drive when you want, find opportunities around you. Now, I know the situation for Uber hasn't been particularly consistent or easy over the last few months, but bearing in mind what Uber does, what do you think about that, Mahmood? What's your view?
I think it's two things. I mean, I think the positive side, it's simple, it's memorable, it's and because Uber depends on its business model for developing those two strands, i.e. it needs the capacity in terms of drivers, and it needs obviously the audience, i.e. the passengers, to use the service. So it's actually got two, if you want, two broadcasts there. I like the simplicity. I think probably what I don't like about it, maybe because I don't use Uber that much, is because I'm not actually that convinced that's what it's communicating out and actually sort of reinforcing out there. I like the simplicity. I like the fact it differentiates between its two stakeholder groups there that are critical for its business. And effectively, that gives you the opportunity to expand and be much more detailed in terms of the messaging that you give out to those two stakeholder groups.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think what Uber's been able to do is value proposition, if I can get my teeth in, its value proposition is so clear and so simple. You want it, you press the button on your phone and it comes and you get in and you do whatever. And that they've applied that to food delivery and various other things as well. So they've been able to do some sort of product and service development from that value proposition to go into different areas. And also it's a very clear proposition wherever you are in the world. You could be in the States, many countries around the world, and go, I'm going to get an Uber. And when a proposition is clear and when a brand is clear, when people start using the word as the noun. So you don't say I'm going to get a cab or whatever, you say I'm going to get an Uber.
I think it's crept into the English language. And I think what I also like about it, Jo, that's a great example you extracted, is if you look at it as like a smart business card, a smart mission statement here, everything that Uber does in its technological developments goes back to that value proposition. Does it support the value proposition? If it doesn't, then obviously it has to either change its value proposition or change what it's doing. So I think that it's a good reference point to hang, everything you do in your business. Yeah.
And final bit on Uber, and then we will move on, I promise, is that it's got that fit with what customers want, because obviously not in lockdown situations, but in a non-pandemic, I know that, when I go to London or wherever, I just want to go from here to there, tap it and go. It's really meeting my needs as a customer. Very, very easy. And people may or may not like or agree with, whether we like or don't like some of these brands, but it's about the point, really. It's about illustrating it, isn't it?
And you can't deny the success. It's grown very well. It's had some rocky patches, but all brands do as they grow. So you can't deny the fact it's had a successful growth trajectory.
And its lack of assets, which is, in one way has protected the Uber brand, not been so great for some of the self-employed drivers, unfortunately. So, okay. Now, I've never asked you this. What sort of phone have you got?
Well, it's weird, actually. I've got an iPhone. I've also got a Samsung, which is still in the box, which I've given to my wife, only because I got a bit fed up with the Apple. I think it's a great design product. I think in its early days, the innovation was fantastic here, the design aesthetics. I tend to use it mostly because there's lots more apps, there's lots more things you could do. That's before Samsung upped its game and all the rest of it. I don't actually like the customer service of iPhone because it's a bit like Rainbow for me. So if you ever watched that children's program Rainbow with
I like
Jeffrey,
Rainbow. What's wrong with Rainbow?
Well, because when you go to an Apple store, all the operatives in Apple act like people out of Rainbow and treat. Well, that's my personal experience.
Is that just in Leicester?
Probably. I don't know if it is.
Can I just, on behalf of the business, can I just apologise to anyone who's watching who knows someone who's related to someone who works in the Apple store in Leicester? I'm sure you do a grand job.
I'm sure you do, but I'm older than 3 years old. That's all. But anyway, but yeah, it's a great brand. I use my phone. I actually upgraded the other day, actually. But I'm probably one of those people that comes the second or third iteration of a brand new product. I'm not the must-haves. I'm probably about a year or two behind the curve.
Yeah, a bit of a laggard, not an early adopter, but a bit of a laggard on the product life cycle there.
Correct.
So yeah, I have an iPhone too, and I love them, and I know that I think Samsung are doing some incredible. My daughter who's 24 and her boyfriend who's 25, they're really into their Samsungs, and I can see why. But for the Apple iPhone, the value proposition is around the experience is the product. So, and how they position, how they design, it is that sense of design and interface, the connection that you have with the phone and so on, that's easy to use. And that's been the cornerstone of the Apple brand. It's that think different, isn't it? It's about thinking differently and not being and actually a lot of the other phones like Samsung, are standing on the shoulders of what Apple have done. But you're right, Apple need to keep pushing that and building that. That's why your value proposition never stands still.
It's weird that you say that, actually. I mean, I know we're going to talk about Apple, but I just picked up that thing you were saying about standing on the shoulders. Anyone who's a leader, a market leader, what you'll tend to find is 2 or 3 things. Is obviously keep going, because people are going to emulate you and copy you. And if I look at like Ryanair, for example, Ryanair and EasyJet. Now, Ryanair in particular, Fantastic growth company, great story there. I know Michael Leary's not everybody's cup of tea here, but what he did when he actually took on the airline from its very low position, moved it forward, great publicist, great way of generating. But he also focused on the operational efficiency of Ryanair very quickly, like turnaround times, load factors, and all the bigger airlines, even the luxury airlines, so to speak, actually copied him. He copied all those processes and practices. So that's got nothing to do with Apple, by the way, but that's just the whole idea. When you're a leader in your field, people will copy and emulate, and there's lots of things that you businesses can learn from other businesses that may not be the same size, but in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah. So for you and your business, when you're thinking about how you stand out and how you're different and why, this is all about why people should choose you and your products and services against anybody else's. And usually, unless you've got a monopoly, usually people do have a choice. So it's making sure that the right people, the people you want to work with, are choosing you. And have a think about, well, how would you sum this up for yourself? What words might you use? What sort of expressions might you use? And there's no judgment here. We'd just love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've got anything you want to run by us or share, then let us know for your business and stick it in the chat. So another one, I don't know if I don't use this service, but I'm really clear about what it is, which is a good thing, which is HelloFresh. Yeah. Does anybody here who's watching, do you use HelloFresh? Do you know what it is?
I know the company. I don't use it myself. It's not my thing, but I know it's got some great market traction. I know it's a very popular brand.
Yeah, well, their value proposition is that HelloFresh can give any level of home cook kitchen confidence. So if you're cooking at home, you can do a really nice meal, sort of almost professional cook or chef style, and you can do it all at home with all the ingredients and feel really confident about doing it because it gives you step-by-step guides. And I do have friends who subscribe to this and who absolutely love it because you can order different things and it all comes together. And they say they've got 5 things in their value proposition. So firstly is an enjoyable cooking experience. Secondly is customization and personalization, so you can pick what you want in your delivery. High value for money, catering towards high convenience, so it's really easy and quick, and superior offerings, so it's something a bit different and really good quality. So what do you think about that, Mahmood, in terms of their value proposition? There's a bit more to it.
Yeah, there's a bit more to it. There's a bit more building blocks, and I think, and maybe it's because I'm not target audience, and maybe because I'm not actually connecting with the brand that much. But I think from the outside, if you look at it, it just, I think, and it might be me just as a consumer. When I look at it, I just think of it's food that's delivered to you, and I wouldn't immediately know what that value proposition was. So I would look at it. You look at what's on offer, you look at the value that it's offering, the price it's offered, and it doesn't connect to me because I didn't actually realise fully that it was that giving you that high-end experience of cooking like a chef style, high grade Michelin type food, and making sure that the mistakes are minimised. If I was aware of that, then actually I've just learned tonight as well.
Yeah, I think as well, this is important for you as well, and your value proposition for you watching is that your value proposition doesn't have to appeal to everybody. In fact, it shouldn't. If you're trying to appeal to everybody, then it's just going to be generic sort of tosh, really. It won't cut through. It just won't cut through the noise. It's got to be really specific, so the right people that you're targeting go, oh, that sounds really good. And I know a couple, and it's Anthony and Dee. If Anthony and Dee are watching on replay later, they own a fantastic app development company. And they love HelloFresh because they're really busy entrepreneurs, professional people. And after a long day, the husband and wife, and they go home, or they're in home anyway at the moment now, aren't they? And get the HelloFresh stuff out and they cook together, make something different, have something that they wouldn't normally have, and really enjoy the experience, all delivered home. So it's about making it right for the people who you want to do business with.
Yeah,
not the rest of the world.
And that's marketing for you. Make sure you're connecting to the right audience and making sure those channels are to the right people. There's no point, communicating to a customer group that's never going to buy from you.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of our last example of a value proposition, and again, tell us what you think of these. Is Audible. So I don't listen. I listen to podcasts, but I don't listen to books. I wonder what that is. Anyway, I'll have a think about that. Do you listen to books?
I do occasionally, but I do actually like the radio. So I do like listening to plays on the radio. I do like listening to stuff like that. I've got a Kindle, which I've never used, by the way. But do I actually listen to audiobooks? I have listened to a few before. And if I had a functioning playing system in my car, I'd probably play a lot more as well.
Yeah. I think I tend to read mostly non-fiction. And if there's a diagram or, an image or sort of something that is illustrating a point, then I think I like to see that. But I suppose it's whether we're visual or auditory. Anyway, that's probably but I just thought, a lot of people listen to podcasts and a lot of people are listening to books on the go as well. So it's very convenient. So the Audible value proposition is Audible allows you to experience the latest books anywhere at any time by providing you with Audible books straight to your mobile device. And they say they've got thousands of titles to choose from, which they have. You can download them and listen offline. And you even get your first book free when you sign up. By the way, Mahmood and I, we're not on any commission for any of these, are we?
But Apple, if you're listening to us, I'll big up your stores. If you want to give me a free iPhone, I'm quite happy to do that and show Joe will be receptive as well.
Even better, I think when the shops open again, you ought to have Mahmood as an apprentice for a day in your Leicester store and see how he gets on. Okay, so
I wear my own dungarees.
So I think what they're trying to say here is just, if you're busy, many of us want to read more. We want to learn, especially us entrepreneurs. If you're listening tonight, you probably want to be entertained. You want to learn something, think about stuff as well, even be reminded of stuff you've not thought about for a while for your business. So the Audible proposition is don't let being busy be an excuse for not reading. Listen to what you want in different places that suit you. So it's pretty good. That would you agree? Or
I think you've got to define here, because it's going for people who are time poor. You're going for people who actually want to acquire more information. And I think what I love about all the ones that have been selected here is they're quite well defined. Yeah, they're quite clear. They've got, it's not a mass generic bland statement here. You may not agree with them, which is fine, but at least you know what its distinctive elements are that make it up. Yeah,
and if you're thinking about putting together your own value proposition, which we hope you are, and then here's some things to think about in terms of how to put it together. So as you've heard from the ones that we've shared with you, and we can put probably a couple in the chat, Mahmood, as well, can't we?
Yeah, sure.
After the show, so to give you some examples. Like a headline, a sub-headline, and some short points. And if it's something you're communicating in writing, how are you bringing your value proposition to life visually? So some homework for you, if you'd like to accept the challenge of having some homework, is to think about what is your value proposition and actually, be able to write it down on 1 or 2 sentences max, like those brands have done.
Can I add something to the homework list? Oh. Listen, if you're going to take a break from the homework assignment, add something else to the homework. Ask your customers, survey them, okay, and actually get their feedback on what they look for in you. I know some people, it's not a very comfortable conversation, you might think, to say, I don't really want to ask customers and clients, but personally speaking, clients, businesses, customers like to be asked their opinion on something. So be prepared, obviously, for the feedback, but challenge yourself to survey and ask your customers, emailing, whatever mechanism you use, ask them what they look for.
Yeah, and just a tip for you as well. There's a lot of stuff in marketing and copywriting around showing the customer the pain and then the joy at the other end once they've experienced your product or service. There's a lot of behavioral science coming through right now and research coming through, which is we've had enough of that, right? That's been and gone, and we see straight through it. So it's about, some positive messaging. What are the great things that can be achieved? What's the great things that your clients are already doing that they can build on? And I think particularly in these challenging, difficult times around COVID and Brexit and, the rain and the weather and all of those things, people are responding far more to what's possible and positive than heaping on a load of negativity. So,
yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on there, Jo. And I think, remember the things that me and Jo have talked about before. Whatever you do in all this, maintain your authenticity, integrity. But yeah, grasp it other than effort. So you've got 2 bits of homework there, but those are homeworks, by the way, that's actually going to be really good for your business as well.
Yeah. And another tip, we've got another tip, which all these tips are all good tips, very good tips. Is to use the language that your customers use the vocabulary that your customers use. So if your customers say that, the problem is that they want things to be, quick, easy and straightforward, then use those words. We are quick, easy and straightforward. It's about playing back what the customers said they want and in the words that they would use, not the words that you would use. And a lot of technical and industrial businesses use their own lingo when they're writing and talking about stuff, instead of just talking the way that their customers would talk. Have you experienced that? I know you don't do it, but have you experienced it?
Oh, very much so. I mean, literally, when I started my business 26 years ago at the end of this month, is the language I used, because I was new to it, it was very much what I would call jargon, technical, what I call professional. As the years have gone by since that 26 years ago, it's a much more, you act as though when a customer actually meets you for the first time, how you're going to be with them. So the jargon doesn't really exist as much. Words are simple. It's more conversational. It's more about being human and interacting with your audience. So yeah, I've definitely seen that. I've seen it in my own space. I've seen it in other industries and sectors here. And I'm thinking, if you're product centric, if that's if you're that's what your business is, great, you're doing the right thing. But if you want to be customer focused, you need to ditch the language and the jargon and start talking to them and being human. Yeah.
Now there are some exceptions, which if you're selling a high spec piece of hardware, computer hardware, or maybe something for an engineer, that's going to do a really specific job, you will need to provide technical specifications, but alongside what they will do, in human language. So if you buy this thing with this, whatnot processor, you can tell I'm not, with this whatnot speed of processor, this means that when you go online, it'll be immediate. You won't have to wait to download your files. It'll be there for you, or whatever it is. So you're doing the technical bit, but you're also making sure alongside that you're saying for the human being what that means in practice.
But with that, Jo, isn't it? It's pretty much what we're saying anyways, that if it's let's say a high spec product, if it's engineering, electrical, or whatever, something in that realm, if that's what your customers want and they want the detailed spec, that's the language that you're adopting. So you've got to be able to adapt your language and your content according to who you're speaking to and what's required out of that dialogue.
Absolutely. And, in terms of a value proposition, if you would like to know more and come and join us at the Business Growth Club, you would be very, very welcome to. So you get 2 brains, which is us, working in detail and depth with you on your business. 10 steps, 10 weeks. It's not 10 easy steps to multi-millionairedom, I'm afraid, but putting the key things in place in your business right now so that you will get the benefits and return in the next few weeks, and beyond that as you move forward. It will give you a really good accelerated base to move forward. So do come and join us, because there's not long, is there?
Absolutely not. And I think 100%. If you want to know how do I find out more, we're not going to make it difficult for you. Either drop a comment in the box tonight, go onto the Business Growth Club there. We have a mailing list, by the way, which we share lots of information with our wonderful Business Growth family, free. That's a nice word. So you get regular little tips into your inbox each week. So if you want to subscribe, come and join us in. We'd love to. And we've got, I think we have Richard here. Do you want to read that one out, Jo? Let's put him on the screen.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I wasn't. There we go. I can see it now. Thank you. So this has frazzled my brain tonight. Thanks, guys. Going to have to watch this again. Must watch it twice. Get it right. Yes. And actually, it will take a few goes at value proposition, you know, and so it's a really good thing to do. So pleased you found it interesting and useful, because that's what we're here to do, is just, you know, give you some things to think about and challenge, but it will help you move forward. So yes, that's brilliant. Good to see you again, Richard, as well.
Have a glass of something to unfrazzle that brain.
Yes, that can help. A nice glass of red wine. I fancy one of those. So next week, Mahmood, we're going to be talking about invest your time as you would your money. So if you've got any questions or anything you want us to cover, or any, you know, good things that you do that you want to share, because you're doing lots of good stuff, otherwise you wouldn't be, you know, doing so well in business, because you all are, then let us know. We're looking forward to it, aren't we?
Absolutely. And so it's going to be a great show. So in all these things, if you've got comments, if you're watching this on a replay later on, put #replay. Me and Joe will always pick the comments up. Find out more about the Business Growth Club, because we think it's a fantastic innovation and product. And when we speak to you guys next week, if you've got questions you want us to talk about, areas that for a future show, we're receptive. Chuck them in the comments box. And until then, have a fantastic week ahead.
Yeah. See you next time.
See you next time. Shall we play out with our air guitar music?
I think we should, yeah.
Let's do that. Joe, I'm going to talk to you in a second. Everybody, have a fantastic week ahead.